It's the first time to see such an arrogant man. He even played roleplay with the prosecutor in court, and even choked him, and the origin of all this dates back to a few days ago. As mentioned in the previous episode, the police captain was at risk of being accused. At this time, the Special Victims Unit was in a dilemma of having no leader. At this point, a burly man suddenly joined the Special Victims Unit. He not only took over the police station, but also replaced everyone's partners. In response, Officer Munch, who had some complaints, right away went to argue with him, only to find that he was watching a recently popular talk show. It was an interview program similar to the 19+ restricted category. Daniel was a well-known host of the show. He was interviewing Laura, a well-known female writer of best-selling books. Her erotic novel 25 Kinds of Axe was very popular. The novel sold very well. Its sales even surpassed that of the same period work 50 Shades of Grey. The two had a pleasant conversation on the show. After the show, they couldn't contain their lust. Laura even took the initiative to quietly stuff her panties into Daniel's hand. After receiving the hint, Daniel understood her intention right away. After dinner, the two, filled with lust, got intimate in the room right away. But at this point,
That too, I say when you can touch me.
Laura was immediately stunned. Then Daniel even took off his belt and strangled Laura's neck. Obviously, he was a pervert. After receiving the call, the Special Victims Unit rushed to the hospital. The person who reported the case was Laura's agent. The other person told the Special Victims Unit that when Benson found Laura, her body was covered in blood, and there was a striking strangulation mark on her neck, suspected of being assaulted. But Laura in bed gave a different statement. She insisted that she hadn't been assaulted, and that her date with Daniel and the sexual relationship were consensual. As for the marks on her neck, she explained that it was only because Daniel was too strong, and she struggled while being unable to breathe. Faced with the assault test proposed by the police, Laura refused in a panic. From Laura's expression, it was obvious that things weren't that simple. In the police station, Laura, as seen on the show, claimed to be a woman who pursued excitement. Because 25 Kinds of Axe was so popular, almost the whole Special Victims Unit had read the book. The book detailed the plot of the heroine being forcibly assaulted, which was exactly the same as Laura's experience. Benson guessed that maybe Laura took the initiative to approach the other person, but after the accident, to not affect her reputation, Laura didn't dare to pursue Daniel for the assault. Coupled with her persistent refusal to undergo an injury assessment, it was therefore difficult for the police to convict Daniel. In addition, there were rumors in the community that Daniel was a playboy. Whether it was the hot female guests on the show, or the innocent interns at the TV station, as long as he took a fancy to them, an intimate relationship would ensue. Based on this clue, officers Munch and Tutu quickly found Daniel, and asked him in detail about the night he dated Laura. Daniel insisted that this date was completely arranged by Laura. Both sides did it willingly. Their interactions were just imitating the plots described in Laura's book. It was even Laura who took the initiative to ask for rough treatment. Daniel emotionally pointed out that it was clearly Laura who took the initiative to seduce him, but then she falsely accused him to the police. Faced with this tricky situation, the police found Laura again, but she attended the book signing with a tired body. Benson hurriedly expressed his concern and hoped that Laura would accept the assault test. She still firmly refused, but an accident happened that night. Daniel suddenly appeared at Laura's celebration banquet. Laura hurriedly put down her wine glass and fled in a hurry, but Daniel caught up with Laura, questioned why she called the police, and assaulted her again. Frightened out of her wits, Laura found Benson overnight. She told the whole story of her experience of being assaulted. She angrily said she wanted to call the police and send this pervert to prison once and for all. In the police station, the elevator surveillance footage detailed the whole process of Daniel's crime. Now that there were both witnesses and material evidence, the next step was to enter the litigation process. But Officer Edward pointed out that similar scenes had appeared in Laura's works. Given that she didn't resist in the elevator, Daniel was very likely to use this loophole to defend himself. Despite this, the police still decided to file a lawsuit, because the contracts of other prosecutors had expired. The new head of the police station recommended a new prosecutor. He was an eccentric person, who acted with great speed and determination. He had a wild and flamboyant style, but was very good at handling assault cases. He gave Benson a slap in the face as soon as he appeared. The prosecutor didn't show partiality to the victim, just because she was a woman. He asked Laura to carefully sort out her emotional past, and repeatedly warned that there must be no concealment from him. Regarding this, Laura had to tell her situation. The police were having a heated discussion, but before the Special Victims Unit could find Daniel, he took the lead in making a statement on the show.
Accused of rape by author Jocelyn Paley.
I was actually accused of assault by the writer Laura. Daniel seized the high ground of public opinion by taking the initiative. He claimed that it seemed to have become a normal for successful men to be accused of assault by women, but he firmly believed that the so-called victim, Laura, knew best in her heart he was wrongfully accused. Daniel thought he was very clever, but he didn't expect that his opponent this time was a prosecutor. With a rather bold style of doing things, the prosecutor decided to go along with his wishes and make the matter bigger. A good show is about to begin. The Special Victims Unit deliberately arrested Daniel in a public place and intentionally made him lose face in front of the media cameras. In court, the opposing lawyer was arguing strongly. The prosecutor wasn't to be outdone. Since Daniel is a Canadian citizen, the judge was worried about the risk of him fleeing, so he rejected his bail application. This also made him have to spend the night in the detention center. This way, it also prevented Daniel from talking nonsense in front of the camera. Given that Daniel was really too cunning, his confident look was obviously not his first crime, but no one had prosecuted him for years. Obviously, Daniel was quite proficient in exploiting legal loopholes. The police were also afraid that he would use Laura's books as a breakthrough to refute. Taking this opportunity, they decided to conduct visits. The police quickly found a former female intern of Daniel. The girl's experience was very similar to Laura's. At first, they all voluntarily had a relationship with Daniel, but it didn't take long before she was broken by him. To silence the girl, Daniel even recommended her to be a radio producer. Because of this, the girl wasn't willing to stand up and accuse Daniel. Without a witness, an effective testimony couldn't be formed. Even if Daniel had a criminal record of special hobbies, the police couldn't convict him. At the same time, to learn from Laura's ex-boyfriend that he didn't have any special hobbies, and revealed an interesting thing. He said he never realized that Laura had the talent to write books before. Even Laura's former roommate said that she, with a quiet personality, didn't look like someone who liked to do crazy things at all. On the other side, Edward also learned an important clue from Laura's teacher. This female professor had an especially close relationship with Laura as a college teacher, but the professor's salary was very meager. But strangely, she could afford a $280,000 antique piano. After Edward studied the female professor's articles overnight, he found that they were exactly the same as the words in Laura's novel. The answer was already self-evident. This female professor was the real creator of 25 Kinds of Acts. Laura was just a nominal author in name only. Why didn't she sue Laura for plagiarism? When she knew that Laura copied her work in the police station, facing everyone's questions, Laura brazenly quibbled. Although Laura flattered Daniel on the show, she had never been involved in large-scale activities. Prosecutors hated such victims who lied repeatedly the most. If you aren't willing to tell the truth, why call the police in the first place? The prosecutor exposed Laura's lie on the spot. Seeing that things were exposed, Laura burst into tears and begged the prosecutor not to make her actions public. Because the case had entered the litigation process, the police must truthfully say the truth to the jury. As a result, Laura's credibility would drop sharply. Now, whether Laura withdrew the lawsuit or not, she would inevitably end up in disgrace. In this regard, the prosecutor asked Laura to tell the truth in court. In court, Laura admitted to everyone that to pay off her student loans, she became a nominal author for the female professor. The female professor gave her a portion of the profits as remuneration. The characters and plots in the book had nothing to do with her. Laura said she neither liked being abused, nor would she let Daniel commit assault. According to the contents of the book, during this period, she repeatedly asked him to stop, but Daniel turned a deaf ear. He even chased her to the celebration banquet to take revenge on her. It seemed that the jury had been moved. In the nick of time, the defense lawyer questioned Laura's statement. He said that Laura, who liked to lie, had long lost her credibility, and played her bold remarks on Daniel's show in court. Laura publicly claimed to fantasize about being roughly pushed down by Daniel. The lawyer even sarcastically said that Laura wouldn't hesitate to commit perjury for money. Faced with the layers of questioning from the opposing lawyer, Laura couldn't refute at all. Seeing that they were about to lose the case, the police had to ask the female professor to testify in court. In court, the female professor admitted that the contents of the book originated from her own fantasies and had nothing to do with Laura. She chose Laura as the nominal author because she thought Laura's innocent and lovely appearance could form a strong contrast with the sexy content in the book. It could attract more readers and was a good selling point. But she didn't expect that Daniel would use the fantasies in the book to justify his assault. This made her feel deeply ashamed. The defense lawyer retorted right away. It wasn't difficult to hear from her words that the lawyer was very disgusted with Laura. He said Laura wasn't as innocent as she appeared. At the same time, Daniel also admitted that he never lacked suitors around him. With his conditions, he didn't need to take risks at all. He even said that he only tried to meet Laura's needs, but she wanted to slander him for publicity. The first trial ended. The prosecutor was very angry. The female professor not only didn't help, but even the defense lawyer bit back at him. If this continued, the case might be lost, unless they could find a way to make Daniel reveal his true face in court. Soon the second trial came. The hypocritical Daniel was still putting on a show. In front of the judge, he insisted that Laura was the dominant one in the relationship, and he had only obeyed her all along. He also said that using a belt was also ordered by Laura. He also deliberately emphasized that Laura was very enjoying it at that time. But at this point, the prosecutor suddenly looked curious. He said he was curious to know how a belt around the neck could actually make someone excited. With that said, he unbuckled his own belt and insisted that Daniel demonstrate the scene on the spot. The prosecutor was so desperate to win the case that he disregarded his own safety, and Daniel, provoked by the prosecutor's words, suddenly lost control. So the scene at the beginning unfolded. By this point, the prosecutor had achieved his goal. The prosecutor said that sadists often couldn't tolerate being dominated by others, but there were no marks on his own neck. This showed that Daniel was aware of his actions. Comparing this with the shocking strangulation marks on Laura's neck, it was obvious that Daniel had lied. Laura wasn't willing at that time. At this point, the truth of the case was finally revealed. In the end, the jury unanimously found Daniel guilty of first-degree assault. This villain finally received legal punishment. Although Laura won the lawsuit, she lost her future and career forever. Talk show host Daniel's crazy act of strangling the prosecutor's neck with a belt in court tore apart the sins beneath the glamorous surface of the entertainment industry. Female writer Laura became famous overnight with 25 kinds of acts, but she fell into a struggle between lies and truth in the case. She was both a victim of assault and a ghostwriting puppet to pay off loans. The fiction in the book and the violent harm in reality are the harshest satire on the Vanity Fair. The case focuses on role-playing. Daniel used the plot of the novel to whitewash himself, but the prosecutor's on-site demonstration exposed the truth of his abuse. Laura's dual identity is her most tragic misfortune. She admitted that she hired someone to ghostwrite her novels. Those bold narratives praised by everyone are actually money scams, and the real harm was almost covered up by the public persona. At the end of the movie, the prosecutor takes risks to obtain evidence, revealing the predicament of the weak in the power structure. Although the law punished the perpetrator, Laura's lonely back shows that in the cage of desire and capital, even if she wins the lawsuit, the consumed life can hardly turn back. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.